All right. Oh wow, we are we are we are live. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We have a great topic to chat about, and the sooner that you get your head around this topic, the better. We want to avoid burnout prior to success, or certainly um, minimize or eliminate burnout while you're at success, so that when you come up for air, having met success, the different facets of your life, attributes of your life, are in alignment with a predefined success model. So we're going to kind of help us each define or bring to light our definition of success. Um, Talk about, are you balanced with the different areas, facets of your life? The idea of having defined, achievable, realistic goals, and then how do you overcome roadblocks, and then how do you celebrate your success. We've got a lot to cover, and I'm going to introduce the one of the stages of the seven success stages. So we're going to get into the topic for today. We're going to bring on Dr. Hall. He is a business psychologist, an executive coach, a multi-time author, and a public speaker. And we're going to specifically get into kind of I hope, get into how our brain works as it relates to the burnout phase. So with that, I'll bring Dr. Hall in. How you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I typically got some housekeeping items, but just real quick, I was hoping you could kind of give your insight into, or perspective on what burnout is, so the audience knows the main topic for today.
Yeah, the way I define burnout is repetitively doing a non rewarding task over time to the point where you just don't feel like you've got the juice to do it anymore. And for some people, their work is burning them out, that they're doing the same thing over and over, day by day, day after day, and there's very little reward in it. So they're just spent.
So at some point, your brain says, why keep doing this? I'm not achieving the things that I thought I would by doing this. So why not just give up? Is that a fair?
Yeah, I mean the task is not intrinsically motivating. That there may be money involved in it, but at some point, um, you money is not enough to keep it going, and mentally it's so draining you can barely slog your way through.
That's perfect, because I definitely want to go to what is the definition of success, because a lot of people correlate that to the monetary side of things. So let's put that on pause for just a second. I'll do some quick
Sure.
housekeeping for those of you that I haven't met. My name is Jerod Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the Perfect Real Estate Business, where we're looking to reinvent real estate, how it is that we go about real estating. We spend the better part of the last couple of decades in collaboration with Dr. Hall, more than a couple of decades, to bring kind of the mindset side of things with business coaching, life coaching, mentor training, and then of course the things that make for kind of the traditional things that come with a healthy real estate business. So if you have any questions, and we can talk to you at no obligation about what that looks like, we'd be glad to help. So let's chat a little bit about that. Uh, why is it? And maybe it's just a simple thing to do, to say, I'm going to go do this effort, and now I've got some monetary correlation between input A to production X. Is that just oversimplification, meaning money?
Well, yeah, money is an important motivator. I mean, we all need money, and so we do things for money. I mean, there are lots of things that we don't do if there wasn't a financial reward. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient.
That's what I was
So
hoping you'd get to. Thank you.
yeah, so if people tell you, oh, um, if you find work that you love, even if you don't get paid, you should do it because you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah, but you still got to pay your bills.
Yeah.
So um, money is a necessary component. And I think some of the authors who've talked about intrinsic motivation have really done a disservice about avoiding the talk of money. So I think money is an important part, but it's not enough.
Right. In your book, Staying Happy, Being Productive, you talk about the other areas of your life that you should take into consideration to have a balanced life such that success is introduced into all of those and not just lopsided, right? Because we're holistic people. If you make a ton of money, but you're unhealthy, you can't enjoy the money. If you work too much and your relationships fall apart, then, you know, that side of your life is failed or failing.
Yeah, yeah. So in my Big Ten, money is one of the things, and I don't apologize for that. It's an important part of having a satisfying life, but it's not the only. It's one of, in my list, one of 10 things. So people who have a list of what you need for a satisfying life, if it doesn't include money, I think they're missing an important point.
Yeah. So I'm going to butcher this a little bit, so I'll allow you to elaborate on
Okay.
it. But how do you find? I mean, obviously, people can read your book, but just to summarize that, how do they best uh, define success so that the holistic, the entire, uh, all the dimensions of themselves are satisfied in the way of success, achieving success? Is it just monitoring each one as time goes by? Is it that simple?
Well, I think monitoring it helps you determine if you're being successful. But there's an internal measure of success, which is life satisfaction. You wake up in the morning and go, I got a pretty good life.
Hmm.
That really is what success is. It isn't having more and more cars. It isn't having more and more sex partners. It isn't having more and more fame or followers on social media. It really is waking up every day and saying, "Boy, my life is pretty good." Um, and if you've got a gap in any of those, I had a friend who described his model as a wheel, and if every spoke on the wheel was there, then the wheel turned really well. But if one was broken or one was short, then you had a bumpy ride. And so what I encourage people to do is, okay, look at which spoke is the shortest, and that's probably the one you should work on to make sure that you're building your life so that you don't have these uneven parts of your life that kind of jangle you.
I'm trying to remember what episode, what podcast we did when you talked about why it is that human nature, uh, money always falls short, right? You can never have too many cars, too many trips, too many, girlfriends, too many, like. So even if you think you're going to get there, human nature is finding a lack. D-
Well, yeah, that's just how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to be organs of habituation. So whatever
mm,
stimulus you have, as soon as you achieve it, it becomes the new normal. And
Habituation.
so it's habituation. We become habituated to something, and eventually we don't even know it's there. So people who live by the train tracks, you know, the first 6 months they live there, they can't sleep through the train. After 10 years, they don't even notice the train's going by. The brain just becomes habituated to it.
Right. So I guess what I want our listeners to understand is if you're fixated on money and what money brings to you, you're going to come up short because you get habituated. Am I saying this right? You get habituated to what you have and you feel lacking. So to put everything into that is just kind of setting yourself up for failure. Did I describe that?
I talked to someone recently. We'll use airplanes, right? We'll use air travel. So if,
Okay.
if if you buy a coach ticket every time and you get on board on the last group and you can barely find spot for your luggage, right? You have to check the bag because there's not enough space, so you have to take your batteries out and whatever. And so you're used to getting on the plane last. Well, if you get more, and then you get up into that you know premium coach class, then you feel like, wow, this is really good. And then you get up to first class and,
Uh-huh.
ooh, this is nice. But pretty soon you get accustomed to that first class. And when you have to go back to the premium coach, you go, oh man, this sucks.
It's miserable.
I don't, this is miserable. And I had somebody tell me, he said, I'm never going to fly private. And I said, why? He goes, because as soon as I get used to it, I'm never going to want to go back.
Yeah. Well,
But but
that's a
he's described it. He's
yeah.
described it. So as soon as you're accustomed to flying first class, it's really hard to go back to coach.
I love
But
that analogy because, like you said, premium at some point was, "Ooh, this is nice."
this is
Now
nice. Yeah.
all of a sudden, to man, you know, I'm scraping the barrel. Like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
I've got to go back to with the riffraff.
Yeah,
But you were the riffraff a few years ago. So
yeah,
so it's important to realize you will become. It's fun. It's nice. If you're used to flying coach, to fly first class, it's like, wow, this is a treat. And this feels really good. Well, as soon as you've done it a lot, it becomes the new normal.
mm,
And so it's important to realize, okay, no matter what I do, I'm going to get accustomed to this new thing.
is that what habituation is? Is the new normal?
Sure, that we always, because our brains will always habituate.
Mm,
I'll give you a temperature example. So when the fall comes and it's 50 degrees, you put on your winter coat, you put on your hat, you put on your gloves. In the spring, when it's 50 degrees, you're out in a t-shirt.
yeah,
Because over the winter, you become habituated to the cold, and now 50 degrees seems really warm. In the summer, you become habituated to the heat, so 50 degrees seems really cold, but it's still 50 degrees.
yeah, yeah,
That's how our brains work. We just become habituated to whatever environment we're in.
yeah. That makes sense. So let's take it the next step. So we've identified why not to focus on money because it's never going to be enough, and there's the holistic side of us needs to be well-rounded in other areas of our life without obviously regurgitating the whole book. Like, talk through the different areas briefly of your life that you need to focus on and why to be
Sure,
satisfied
sure.
fully.
So the Big Ten are sleep and rest life. That's the first one. When people say, "What if I'm only to work on one thing? What should I work on?" It's like, number one, get your sleep in order, and I include rest there because we don't do enough resting. We don't do enough quiet reflection, and that's what sleep and rest are about. Is about recovery and rejuvenation. Then there's recreational life, and that's having fun. And all work and no play does make Jack a dull boy. It's important that you have fun. Very often, that fun is a social activity, some activity with other people. Then there's exercise life. And exercise life is, what are you doing physically to keep yourself active? It's something you have control over. Then there's nutritional life. What are you putting into your system, including supplementation, including medicines, including whatever? And people say, well, why don't you just call that health life? Well, I separate these two things, exercise and nutritional life, because you can control those. You can't control if you get a disease that you had no control over, but
Mm-hmm.
you can control what you're putting in your system and what activity you're doing. So that's exercise life, nutritional life. I've got also love life, which is very important. And I talk about the importance of those primary love relationships: your spouse, your children, your siblings, and your parents. Those are the people who are in your primary circle. If you're old enough, then grandchildren as well. But that love life is important. The next is social life, which is who are the people in your world that you do things with. So very often we see an overlap with recreational life, but very often we'll see people whose social contacts come through work. So the next one is work life. Work life is a very, very important part. Many people can't wait to retire. They're counting the days to retirement. I actually spoke to somebody this last weekend who knew how many years, how many months, and how many days till retirement? And then he
Wow.
said, but who's counting? And I thought, well, you're going to be miserable.
Apparently you, yeah.
Yeah, you. So work life, and we can get a lot of satisfaction in life if we can find work that is rewarding. Then there's related to work is money because we get paid for our work, and having a proper attitude about money, that money is important for life, but it won't make you happy. Um, Lack of money will make you miserable, but having money won't make you happy. That's the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's necessary, but not sufficient. Um, and then after that, you've got spiritual life or faith life. And what I've seen from the lives of successful people is that almost all of them have some Orthodox religious worldview. And that doesn't mean that like an Orthodox Judaism or Orthodox Christianity. It means they're part of an established religious tradition.
Yeah.
And those people tend to be happier. And then the last is thought life, which is what are the mental disciplines that you're doing to make your thoughts to make sure you're controlling your thoughts rather than your thoughts controlling you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like the wheel analogy because the length
Mhm.
of the spokes determines how smoothly the wheel goes around, right? If one's really short and it's thump, 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 it's
Just
an uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah. I love
yeah.
that. And also it goes back to, and I'm trying to remember if we said it on actually on the episode or before we started the episode, but when you said kind of the repetitiveness of what we do without success, and if you're focused solely on the money side, um, that can occur much quicker versus if you're monitoring every or the majority of the aspects of your life, you you're doing different things so that even if you're doing something repetitive in regards to how you make money, at least you're not, you're stepping outside of that to do other things that aren't repetitive. So it doesn't seem like it's just grind, grind, grind for the sake of grinding.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the point of having more than just the accumulation of money being what's necessary for a successful life. That yeah, again, I'm not going to downplay the importance of accumulating money, but but if that's all you do, you are not a successful person.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I've
especially.
met I've met many rich people whose lives are a disaster.
Yeah, well, and this could be an episode all on its own, right? The people that, are on the latter stages of their life and the studies that show who's the happiest, it's the ones with the best relationships, the people that they can count on, that they trust, they're pallbearers. Pallbearers? Yeah. You know, do
Yeah,
they have those? Not, did you have the coolest car or the most cars or taking the most trips that made them the happiest? It's, who was part of their
and
life.
and, and they're cars and trips aren't bad,
Right.
but they're part of that recreational life. So I'm okay with those things. But
Yeah.
if again, if you've only got one spoke, right? You've got money and you've got recreation. You got two spokes.
That's
That's
a
not
goofy wheel.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a goofy wheel.
Yeah. Well, let me like kind of undo or backpedal on what we've already been talking about because I want to go back to the 7-stage success formula. We're not going to talk about all 7 stages, but I wanted to focus in on this idea of work effort, specifically as it relates to entrepreneurs, because we can be our own worst enemy where in corporate America, we get told when to go to work and what to do.
Mhm.
And part of the desire of being an entrepreneur is nobody's telling us, but now we've got to, in some cases, tell ourselves, right? The intrinsic motivation needs to be, I go do that. And obviously there's needs to be a component of how much effort, how much energy, how much momentum you're putting into something. So clearly that needs to be part of the success formula. You can't do the other 6 of which we'll talk about in other episodes without energy, right? So how do you straddle this, putting in the amount of energy to what I equate to creating critical mass, meaning creating something that's bigger than itself, that has its own inertia, its own momentum without burnout. Anyway,
Well, yeah. So I mean, to be an entrepreneur is very challenging, because if you work for a business, someone has already done that heavy lifting. They've already created the momentum. And so when you're an entrepreneur, you're very often building something from scratch. So you're creating all the momentum. The reason people like working for large corporations is because they've got so much inertia. If it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, it doesn't matter if they got a good product or not. They're going to sell product.
Yeah.
But if you're an entrepreneur, if you have bad product, you're not going to eat. So you've got to have that initiative. And that's probably my favorite word. Some people call it agency. Some people call it intrinsic motivation, which is also helpful. But it really is that internal drive to get things done.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you probably have no business being an entrepreneur. Go be an employee. That's good. That's a good life.
Yeah.
It's really a good life. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have that go juice.
I watched. I didn't watch a lot of Shark Tank, but one of the ones I watched, I think it was Kevin O'Leary asked this entrepreneur who was asking for money. I think it was him. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the question was profound. He said, "What's your grind?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "What is it on a day-to-day basis that you would classify as your grind?" And she didn't know the answer. And he said, "I'm out." Like, if you don't know what your grind is, what it is,
So I'm not sure I understand. He would be out with me, because I'm not sure I understand how does he define grind? Is that something that you find troubling or hard to do, but do it anyway? Is that what he means by grind?
That's what I got out of it. It is,
Okay.
the way she came across was kind of like things just kind of worked for her. And I don't think he had any appreciation for that, because that's not been his worldview or his presupposition that things just kind of happen. His take is exactly what you just said earlier. Who creates the momentum? And if it's
Yeah.
not you as the entrepreneur, and you don't know who it is or how it's happening, it's not going to work. That's what I took out of that.
I think there's some people who just live charmed lives. They're just lucky.
Oh,
They
okay,
don't
yeah.
try very hard, and just things work out for them. That's not the world I live in. But I've met people who just kind of fall into the right things, and things just kind of work out for them.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of us, it's called work for a reason. You do have to do some things that you don't always want to do, and identifying the parts of your daily job that are more difficult for you, that's an important thing to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, let me make sure. Um, so we've talked about those. So the other parts I put in here is, do you set realistic and well-defined goals, right? So if you say, I want to accomplish these things, and you're well-rounded in your life, and you're monitoring your health and your relationships and your recreation, but then you're really putting in a lot of effort, um, without a realistic goal, and you never get there, you're going to burn out, because you're never going to get there because it's unrealistic.
Well, I would say one way to make a goal unrealistic is to make it vague. To me,
Ah,
vague is the enemy of success.
there you go.
So I'll tell a story. There was a motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar who I got a chance to meet
Oh, cool.
many years ago. And I heard him speak, and he said, "Yeah, I used to be really fat." And he said, so I went to my doctor and I said, "Okay, I'm going to lose 60 pounds this year." And his doctor said, "Well, Zig, that's kind of a stupid idea." And he said, "Why?" Because, I set goals and I achieved them. And he said, "Well, Zig, how long did it take you to gain this weight? Let's look at the records." And so they looked at the records, and it was over the course of 6 years, he gained 60 pounds. And so his doctor said, "Well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to lose the 60 pounds in 6 years." And then they went through, and he figured out how many ounces a day he needed to lose. And it was like 2 ounces a day.
Doable.
And so every day when he was eating, he would look on his plate and he would go, "What's left is there's about 2 ounces of food there. I'm not going to eat that." So every day he made the decision with every plate of food he ate, "Okay, that's 2 ounces. I'm not going to eat that."
Yeah.
And guess what? In 6 years, he lost all the weight.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to illuminate the fact that it seems like, self included, right? I'm pointing the finger at me, set goals wanting, let's keep with the weight side of things. I want to lose this weight, in 3 months. Um, and then you don't, or let's say you only achieve half of the loss and you don't give yourself even credit for the half, right? So exactly to your point, set a goal based upon what makes sense so that you can
Yeah,
stay there, not something that potentially gets you there, but is not sustainable.
but it's not sustainable. And so you have to know what is a sustainable level of performance for you to do. And if you set goals that are unattainable for you, maybe somebody can attain them. David Goggins, he can attain it, but he's
Superhuman.
he's pretty unusual. I mean, most people don't have his level of pain tolerance.
Did you
And,
see his
and
most recent marathon?
no, I didn't.
200 miles in the mountains in 66 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's
What the heck?
I mean, and I say this with affection. That guy's a freak. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
with
super.
admiration and affection. But most people are not wired like that. So people go, "Why can't I be like David Goggins?" Well, for Goggins, it's kind of a curse as well. It's a blessing and a curse
Yeah,
that he's got this capacity, but he can't ever like take a day off.
yeah,
And have an ice cream cone.
yeah. Well, in some one of his like MOs, or how he does it is, I guess, listens to the haters. He'll like put the haters in his ear and listens to them to drive him to do the
And
things. And
and,
that's,
and,
like you said, that's kind of
and
a curse. Like, oof.
well, right. And if that's the way he wants to get motivated, okay, that's his life. He gets to choose it. And so I respect that. That's not the way most of us
Are
on
wired.
anger, on anger or fear. It's not a way most of us can sustain motivation,
Yeah.
because at some point that anger and that fear gets turned on yourself. And
Mm,
that can be pretty demotivating. For
yeah.
whatever reason, it doesn't work that way for Goggins.
Yeah.
So again, set goals that you're actually going to achieve,
Yeah. And
and
then,
then set up systems. And this is something that I learned from Scott Adams, the author of Dilbert. He said habits are less important than systems. So it's a great idea. How do you set up a system so you can't help but do the right thing?
yeah. Yeah. Set yourself up for success, not failure, right? Got a bunch of ice cream in the freezer probably doesn't set you up for success.
It's certainly not going to set you up for success. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the monitoring, right? So you define, achievable, realistic goals. And then, one of your beautiful points that'll always stick with me is, you manage what you monitor. So you just have to track it. I mean, you can't be
Yep.
oblivious and go, oh, I kind of think I'm getting to my goal or my objective. You got to monitor
Right.
it and then course
You got to
correct if
monitor it.
needed,
Yeah.
or pat yourself on the back if achieved.
Yeah. You've got to do something to keep track of where you want to go. And the reason people focus so much on money is because it's so easy to track. I mean,
Uh,
numbers are really easy to count.
yeah.
Money is really easy to count. Calendars, your time is really easy to count. There are lots of things like the quality of my relationships. It's harder to count.
Yeah. 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 You really have to put a lot of thought into it and
Hmm.
self-evaluate and analyze your relationships and all. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so as it relates to, so to think we're not going to come across roadblocks in this journey to success, you've got your realistic, achievable goals. Something's going to go haywire, right? I mean, it's just life, right?
It just always does. Yeah.
You're going to get sick, you lose a family member, you get distracted. I don't know. So how do you best course correct once these roadblocks come up so that you don't feel like a failure and then give up?
That's all mindset. if if you say I'm not going to miss a day, what is that? What was that? Hard
75 hard.
75, 75 hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you have a roadblock, um, then you have to start all over again. So I mean it's a great exercise, but as a lifestyle, 75 hard is not a good lifestyle.
Right.
Because what happens is if you have a failure and you go, oh well, I have to start at the very beginning,
Yeah.
because I've got no gains. No, just say, okay, I took the day off, and tomorrow I'm going to go back to what I normally do. And
Yeah.
it's telling yourself a slip is not the same as a fall.
Beautiful. I love that.
So if you slip, that's not the same as, oh well, I've deleted all progress I've ever made. I'm back to zero. Okay, just say, hey, I slipped.
Yeah.
I'll get back to it tomorrow, or I'll get back to it later today.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things that I like about that. And I've done 75 hard multiple times, and I have friends that have done them to varying degrees of success. I had a friend that stuck to everything in the program and followed it, to the T. And there was at least two times I remember saying he failed. And one of both, I think both of them were taking the picture at the end of the day. Like, how annoying is that? So you're halfway through, you didn't
Rough.
upload your photo, and now you got to restart. And he did it before I did. He introduced me to it. But my take was, know myself. I'm going to redefine 75 hard a little bit. I didn't want the progress photos, but I was going to really monitor, with a good scale, my weight and my density and BMI and all that.
Yeah.
Um, and then if there was an occasion that I fell short the one day, I wasn't going to beat myself up about it, because I
Right.
can't.
And I guess I would say that's an approach that's sustainable for our lives. So if you're on track and you go to a wedding and you celebrate and you eat too much or you drink too much, you go, oh, I fell off the wagon on my food, my food plan, and so I may as well just quit. Well, no,
Then you
just say,
failed.
okay. Then you failed. And that's all mindset stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you talk a lot about in, Expedition in your books, which is really the center of everything. I think that you talk about is, what is the mindset, which every athlete, every successful business person, the President's series that we've had, what made them successful, it was, what's their mindset? Did they
It really
slip?
is
Did
their
they
mindset. Yeah.
fall? Did they get back up? How hard did they get hit? And how quick did they get up from there? And I called mine 75 medium for a reason, because I, I had to, I didn't want to do 75 soft, but it just worked better for me to give myself a little bit of grace. And then to your point, I realized after that push, that 75 days was about as long as you could go, and then to give yourself a break before you could go back at it again, or some variation of
Exactly.
some new
Or
program.
some variation on it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yep. So creativity, I think maybe this is a good point. Do you introduce creativity in what you're doing? So to constantly be doing 75 hard over and over and over again, that could get kind of boring. But if you change it up.
Well, this goes back to burnout, is that if you keep doing the same things every day, you need variety. Again, human beings crave novelty. They crave variety. I worked with a guy once who was a former bodybuilder, and he used to be ripped as anything, and he loved it. And he says, but I just couldn't consume all those calories. He said it was just I was eating the same thing every day and just jamming down calories. And he said, I wanted something that was off that very narrow menu. I
Yeah.
wanted a little variety.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said the bodybuilding was not important enough to me at that point to keep on that very narrow band of food and consuming that many calories. He said, I just got tired of, I had to eat so many chicken breasts.
Yeah.
At some point, you're just tired of shoving that stuff in your mouth.
Well, I think that's a good example. Bodybuilders, the ones that are successful, like let's talk about Ronnie Coleman, a 7-time, I think, Mr. Olympia. Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm not super familiar with that whole
That world,
space,
yeah.
but you know, his genetics were off the chart. Like everybody would say, he just, his genetics were super unique and maybe one in whatever million or something. But he also had to be disciplined in the food that he ate to accomplish the improvements, or the, I guess, the growth, uh,
Right.
to be there. And I guess what I'm getting at is we're not all wired like that. If you think you want to be a professional bodybuilder and you're not genetically inclined like that, you kind of set yourself up for failure, right? Back to the realistic, well-defined goals. And if you cannot put yourself in the mindset to stay on that narrow path, which is okay, if you can.
If you can, right? You know, outside of baseball, I'd say most of the sports you really have to have some genetic advantages. In baseball, I think you can, depending on your position, with a little bit of skill and a lot of practice, you can be like Pete Rose, you can be Charlie Hustle. You don't have to be really good at anything. You just have to try really hard.
Yeah,
And so he was successful. But for most of those other sports, you have to have a genetic advantage.
yeah,
Basketball, I mean, you got to be tall.
yeah,
Football, you got to be big. You got to be strong.
yeah. Yeah. So I think back to the realistic thing, right? We're not discouraging you from doing anything, but if you set yourself up for failure, like you said, a short basketball player, man, you better be twice as disciplined as the next guy and practice, almost twice as much, because you got a deficit you've got to overcome, and
Right.
you just
You
got
got
to
to
know it
overcome.
going in. So I think I love all this is kind of coming together, right? Figure out your plan, be realistic about your plan as it relates
Mhm.
to who you are, how you're gifted, right? And this is what we talk about in our mentoring, our coaching program. Is this is personalized for everybody, because not everybody's created the same. We're not, passionate about the same things. We're not wired the same way. Some of us got kids, some of us don't, some of us are older, whatever the case may be. You have to factor all that in so that you're creating, a realistic path to success. Acknowledge the fact that something's going to happen. If it's in sports, did you get injured? If it's in
Yeah.
business, did somebody, screw you over? Sorry for the language, but did insert
Yeah.
problem here, because it's going to come up. It's not if, but when.
Yeah. At some point in business, somebody decides somebody else besides you for what appears to be some random reason, and it changes the course of your life. So you just accept that. And then you make the best with the cards you're dealt. I worked with a guy. He did very large real estate transactions, and he says, I got my start because everybody went out for margaritas, and since I didn't drink, I stayed in the office to man the phones. And Friday afternoon at 4:30, got a call for a big deal. It was the first deal I ever did, and it was huge. And he said, and after that, I didn't do any small deals. Everybody kept calling me for big deals. And my associates who went out for margaritas, they kept doing small deals because they never got the chance to do a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just a luck thing,
Right.
That was just luck. And so his life changed because he didn't go out for margaritas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Our life in some cases are defined by the choices we make. The things that we choose not to do frees up opportunities to do the things we should do or need to do.
Right. But I'm not knocking going out for margaritas. I'm just saying sometimes random things happen that you don't have any control over.
Yeah. Yeah. But why not put all those things in alignment for you in your favor? Maybe.
Well, because there's a limit of what you can do, Jerod. I mean, you can't say I'm gonna optimize my life so that everything's
Mm,
in my favor. I mean, because part of an optimized life is going out with your buddies to have fun. That's part of an optimized life. But sometimes chance happens, and things happen to you. So I would encourage people not to get stuck on okay, I missed an opportunity, therefore I'll never be successful again because I went out to margaritas on Friday afternoon. It's like, okay, so just go find other opportunities. And
Yeah.
if you've got the work ethic, unless you're in a in a uh, in an industry or in a profession that has incredible genetic, you have to have incredible genetic advantages, like professional athletics. There's some professions that you have to have some of those things. But for most of us, in most professions, if you're pretty good at stuff and you work really hard, you've got a great shot at success.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point people need to know is don't feel like I've been shorted something, so it's never going to happen. Most successful
Right.
people, it was just by virtue of staying consistent and being disciplined and grinding through, wasn't, or got lucky. And, if you stay in the game, you get lucky. So you could
So
have that
yeah,
too.
yeah. So I mean, success is a combination of work effort and some luck, because there are lots of people who keep their nose clean, they work really hard, and they don't get that lucky opportunity. And other people, and I believe there's some truth to this, that it's attributed to Thomas Jefferson, that is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I think there's some truth to that as well, that part of success is diligence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love it. Well, let's talk about the importance of celebrating success, right? You got to give yourself an opportunity to say, man, look what I accomplished, even if it's the small stuff. Uh, how does what does our brain do with giving ourselves some appreciation for for forward progress? Like how does that work?
well, it's a reward. It's like you're trying to train your dog. You want your dog to come when you call them. You give them a treat, and that teaches them the pattern, and then eventually you don't need the treat. And so human beings are designed to respond to reward, and we can, whatever works in training dogs is the same stuff that works in training human beings. And so we need to have little successes. We need to have little rewards because they keep us on track. When I was in graduate school for a couple of years, I taught a course in study skills. And so when students were doing hard work of reading textbooks, and if they weren't particularly good readers and they weren't particularly good students, as all of my students who were in this class, this study skills class, none of them were good students. So it was really hard for them. And so one woman said, what I do is in the bottom corner of every page, like I'll turn the page, and in the bottom left-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner, I'll put an M&M. And when I finish the left page, I give myself an M&M. And when I
What?
finish the right page, I give myself an M&M. And somebody the next week came in and says, I've modified your tactic. And it's like, what did you do? Well, I put it at the end of every paragraph. I would give myself an M&M.
Oh, wow. Okay, whatever works for you, I guess.
Yeah, and then somebody said, well, maybe I should do it at at the end of every line. So you got a page full of M&Ms.
Oh, then you're
But
sick.
what it does is it gives you this little dopamine hit and dopamine is the chemical of desire, which is, if you desire something, that's the dopamine. You get dopamine hits as you're desiring this end point. It's not the M&M. It's the desire for the M&M. It's the desire for that thing. So give yourself little rewards to give yourself a little dopamine hit.
Well, and
That
that's where I was hoping
reward.
you'd go for that, go with that, because the neuro nerd, in the description of about you is one of the parts I appreciate the most is how our brain's wired. So if at least for me, it helps to know why my brain works the way that it does. So is it fair to say I have like a pleasure center within my brain that triggers some chemicals that says, hey, you rewarded yourself. I feel good. I want to
So
feel
yeah,
good again. So do these
yeah. So
things.
so they used to call it the reward center, and it's called the nucleus accumbens. And dopamine is the key chemical there. There's some newer research, and I'm not sure how much it's been replicated, but there's some thought that actually dopamine is not the reward chemical, but it's the desire chemical. That
Mm.
The amount of dopamine goes up until the point at which you achieve the reward, and then the dopamine goes down. So it's actually the thing that drives your behavior is the pleasure of seeking out the reward. And as soon as you get
Wow.
the reward, it goes down.
Much different.
It's a little bit different. It ends up the same. So people go, well, that's the reward chemical. No, it's the desire chemical. That's
Yeah.
why dopamine is so much of an issue in addiction, because it's desire. It's the desire for that stimulus. So part of our brain does respond to reward, but it's responding to the desire for reward.
Well, the reason I like it so much is because it's I think it's speaking to enjoy the journey.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you attain your new Maserati, tomorrow it's an older Maserati.
You drive it
Until
off
you
the
get
curb and
it,
it's
it's like,
collecting dust and
yeah.
I got to wash
So
it. I get a scratch.
yeah, so it's good to have goals because those goals are things that you desire. As soon as you get it, it's less desirable.
Yeah. Yeah. So hyper important to give yourself different milestones of success and
Different milestones, and if you make it just one thing, that's like giving yourself an M&M once you finish the book. So give yourself pace the rewards throughout your journey so that you can celebrate.
yeah. Well, and I like that. Go back to the food thing again. If I've worked real hard, I've done 75 hard or 75 hard in some other program, and now I'm 6 months, along. When I want to go treat myself for my efforts, allow myself to do that. The treat that I give myself, let's say cheesecake, I'm really going to enjoy that cheesecake because I haven't had
Absolutely.
cheesecake in months, if not years.
Right.
And that's okay. Do I beat myself up because it's potentially going to set me back or, you know, maybe depending on who you are and how you think, but
If you beat yourself up, don't do it at all. If you're gonna have cheesecake, enjoy it,
yeah,
because that's part of the reward, and then go back to your normal pace the next day. It's that if you eat cheesecake every day, your body becomes habituated to it, your brain becomes habituated to it. Pretty much, it's just what you do is you
yeah,
have cheesecake every day.
yeah,
So if you're gonna feel guilty about having cheesecake, don't have it at all. But if you've worked really hard, man, you better enjoy that cheesecake. Make sure it's good.
yeah, yeah. Well, I love the personalization of it. Do it or don't do it, but if you're gonna do it right. A
Yeah.
lot of the online fitness influencers or whatever say this is how I stay at 10% year round. Those guys aren't doing the cheesecake because they're in front of people, they're on camera, they're getting critiqued, and you know all the
You know what
time.
you know what their reward is? It for them it's not a food reward. For them it's being able to show off their physique and the admiration and that good feeling. That's the dopamine hit right there. Okay, so
Mm,
they're getting their reward a different way. Great, good for them.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I love it. Figure out how to celebrate that
Yeah.
works best for you. Yeah, love it. I love it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. I hope folks have taken a lot of valuable information away. We don't want to help you accomplish your goals and achieve success at the expense of it being short-lived, right? Because you didn't take care of your health
Right.
and now you're overweight or now you've got some, persistent health issue, or you blew up all your relationships, with your wife or your kids or friends because you were hyper focused on work. So anyway, hopefully we're helping you to get ahead of that such that when you do reach your goals and your objectives, you can look around and say, the majority of the areas of my life are you know, where I would want it to be,
Right.
and have a rewarding life in a lot of
Yeah.
different
I mean,
areas.
and that's the goal. So if you just achieve happiness for 5 minutes of your life, that's not a really good run. It really is about a sustained life satisfaction that happens, that you experience over a long period of time, not just for 15 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
I was miserable except for these 15 minutes in my life.
Oh, great.
That, that's not enough.
Right, right. Well, very good. Well, let's make sure folks know how to get a hold of you and where your resources are at. Let me pull up your website here, Dr. Why don't you share?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to get in touch with me is at my website, drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com. On that, you can order my books, Staying Happy, Being Productive, DIY Brain, and now Expedition. And you can also sign up for my online course, Freak Out, which is about how to overcome fear. And you can also shortly learn how to take the Expedition course online, which is my leadership course that Jerod and I filmed together and is very soon going to be available.
Awesome. Well, very good. Well, man, as always, Dr. Hall, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with our listeners. And I am highly confident that they are highly appreciative because I know I am.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's of benefit to them. That's my purpose in life, is to create as much benefit to improve the lives of as many people as I can beyond my reach and beyond my life.
I love it. I love it. Well, very good. All right. Other than that, we'll wish everybody a blessed one. Until the next episode. Take care.
God bless. Bye bye.